So today we're going to be talking about how to start drawing an eye. So when you look at eyes, there's a couple main parts that are important to know kind of as you're drawing them, just so sometimes, we don't get distracted and forget certain parts, because it's an essential part of, kind of human anatomy. So we have the pupil, which is at the very center of the eye, and that's kind of where we let light in so that we can see, and it's normally the darkest part of the eye. And then you have the highlight, which depending on, where it is on the eye, kind of depends on where your light source is, or especially if, this is a professional photograph of an eye, sometimes they'll have like, things to help them aim the light a different way, so it might be a different shape. Or if you've ever seen those mirrors that have like halo lights, that's why sometimes people end up with like a circle highlight in their eye, because it's like the light of the mirror. And then you have the iris, which is the colored part of the eye. Of course, right now this one's black and white, but it's essentially, how people have brown eyes, green eyes, purple eyes, all sorts of different eyes. So that's the iris. And on the iris, we also have what's called a limbal ring, which is this part right here. And that's kind of the darkest part of the iris color. So, and it kind of fades away as we get older, but most of the time it stays really, really dark for most of our life. And then we have the eyelids. Okay, and then you kind of have like a little bit of skin that comes up right here, and that's a lot of times where the eyelashes are attaching to. So you don't really want to have like an eye and then have eyelashes going there, because really you're going to have kind of the upper part and the bottom part. Because if you look at your eye like in the mirror, you can kind of see how this bit of skin right here, is kind of flat, and then this part kind of curves. So, but we'll talk about how to draw that in a second. And then of course we have the eyelashes, and then we have the tear duct, which is, where your tears come from. And then we have kind of this little bit of skin that kind of shows you how, inside of our eye, isn't just this shape that we see, it's actually a whole eyeball that is in kind of the socket of the skull. So that's why when we start our drawing, we're actually going to start off with kind of a nice circle. So this circle isn't going to be your iris. This is actually going to be your eyeball, and it's going to help the skin of the eyelid that we'll start drawing to kind of help and curve over top of that eyeball. So, and then I'm going to start with kind of my upper eyelid. So I'm mainly going off this one. So I want to try and look at kind of the angle of the eyelid, because everyone's eyelids and eye shape are a little bit different. So some people have, really lower eyes. Some people have more rounded eyes. It just kind of depends on you. So it's really important, especially if you're trying to do a self-portrait or you're drawing a certain person, really getting the eye shape right is really what's going to make it, kind of reflect that person. So you can kind of hold your pencil up against the eye to get those main angles. So, and we're just kind of going on top of the eye. And I'm just doing this very, very lightly. And then I'd start off with the bottom of the eyelid. And I'm just kind of measuring. So, and again, this is the eyeball. This isn't going to be, where the iris is or where the tear duct is. It's mainly just to help me curve my lines on top. And then I would kind of round out the eye a little bit for where the tear duct is over there. And then this is probably a little too wide. So that's how eyes kind of get us sometimes, is sometimes we'll have the right shape, but then it'll be way too wide or a little too short. So you can also kind of, if I wanted to do it the same size as this photo, I could measure, the width and the height of like the opening if I wanted to, but that's okay. So, and then I'm going to erase this inside and kind of the outer side. And then I'm going to draw that little bit of skin that comes up right here. And I have to adjust this a little bit. So, and then I'm going to draw that little bit of skin that's above the eye, and it gets a little bit smaller as it goes away. So it's a little bit thicker right here and then gets thinner as it goes over there. And then very lightly, I'm going to start drawing the iris. So the iris, you want to make sure that you don't have it showing the whole entire thing, because if you look at eyes, you can kind of see that you don't really see the whole entire iris. A lot of times it's kind of cut off a little bit. So like on this one, it's kind of overlapped a little bit with the eyelid. So when I'm drawing that, I'm drawing the whole circle, but I'm trying to look at kind of where it overlaps with the eyelid. So in drawing circles as whole circles, rather than trying to do like this, because sometimes when we draw eyes, we're like, okay, I need to draw the opening and then circle. And then that's not a circle. So sometimes, you know, once you have that shape, drawing a full circle, but then putting that skin on top will help it stay really, really round. So, and then what I want to do next is then I'm looking at kind of the empty space between the iris and the skin. So that kind of tells me if I need to alter anything a little bit, like this could probably be a little bit closer to my eye. And that's why it's always important to draw really lightly, just in case you have to change anything, adjust anything. So, and then I have a lot of lines, so I could always come in and tidy that up a little bit. And then I would draw the iris just by drawing kind of like a dark circle. And then the highlight, again, depends on what kind of eye you're doing. So if this was, you know, the bottom one, it has kind of a bigger highlight. Of course, this one has kind of just a round highlight. So I could just draw like a circle, or if I wanted to get really, really accurate, I could draw, it's kind of like a half circle inside there. And then just looking at adjustments. Let's see. And then this part of the eyelid comes up a little bit higher than I had it. So, and then I would also want to draw in the tear duct. So the tear duct a lot of times is a little curved, like the line right here normally is a little bit curved. But other times it could be going the opposite direction. So you really want to pay attention to whatever eye you're doing. Like this one I'm looking at is mostly going that direction. And then I would shade it, do all that fun stuff, and then save kind of the eyelashes for the very end. If I was doing this, you know, as like a full-blown drawing. But this is just kind of a simple way to draw an eye. I could probably make my iris, the pupil a little bit bigger. C'est la vie. So, and then when you're drawing eyelashes, what you want to make sure you do is look at how they change direction as they go around the skin. So they're not going to be copy and paste the same all around. So like these ones up here normally kind of curve up a little bit. And then as they go over, then they start curving in the opposite direction. And depending if the person's wearing mascara or maybe they have really thick eyelashes, kind of depends, you know, like this one has mascara on, so it gets a little bit darker over here. So that could be made with shading. And then also, typically, eyelashes are thinner near the end, and then as they go over to the opposite side, they get a little bit thicker. So you want to make sure that your drawing also reflects that. So I could probably do a lot more little eyelashes over here and make them kind of sparse as they're over here. And then the ones down here start at this little bit of skin that we talked about. They just kind of curve over. So, and again, depending on the person, some people have shorter eyelashes, some people have thicker eyelashes. And then of course, if I wanted to add shading, I could make it darker right up underneath the eyelid. I'm not really that worried about making this perfect. So, but that's how you can draw an eye. A very simple eye. And just make sure to spend more time observing your subject than you are actually drawing it.